everyone. Greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast alongside Todd Erzin, Aaron McIntyre. I am Steve Deace. Jam-packed show for you today. Typical Wednesday fare. You guys know how we roll on a Wednesday. We'll have the prophet of woe and lamentation himself, Daniel Horowitz, with us here towards the end of the program. We're going to play Buy, Sell, or Hold. That you take the wheel of the show as we'll discuss the topics you want us to address. That's coming up a little bit later on in this hour. But let us begin here, as we always do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by dodging a bullet. Yesterday, off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia, a magnitude 8.8 earthquake struck, immediately sending areas all over the Pacific into high alert for tsunamis. The quake is the most powerful since the 2011 Japan event and the sixth most powerful ever recorded. Videos showed traffic jams all over places like Honolulu as residents attempted to flee to higher ground. Fortunately and thankfully, as the day and night wore on in the Pacific, the most catastrophic of eventualities was avoided and no major damage from potential tsunamis was reported. The U.S. economy surprised in the second quarter of this year, growing at an annualized 3% pace. Panikin's hardest hit. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri has introduced legislation to provide $600 tariff rebates to almost all Americans and to their dependent children, a proposal that would give a family of four $2,400. The proposed legislation comes after Trump floated the idea before his trip to Scotland this week. A letter signed by every major restaurant owner in Cincinnati is criticizing city leadership and condemning the violent attacks on individuals last Friday night. The letter says those responsible need to be held accountable to the highest degree. The Senate last night narrowly approved Trump's Third Circuit Judge nominee, M.L. Bove. Bove actually believes in the Constitution, so naturally he was opposed by the left and some of the right-wing Federalist Society's smart set. Senators Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins voted against the confirmation, while Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty did not vote. The vote ended 50-49. Dr. Vinay Prasad is out at the FDA after barely 3 months on the job. Prasad was the agency's top vaccine official. The FDA said in a statement, quote, Dr. Prasad did not want to be a distraction to the great work of the FDA and the Trump administration and has decided to return to California to spend more time with his family. From what I've seen, the evaluation of his brief performance at the FDA is mixed among the MAHA world. America's Governor Ron DeSantis went off on Republicans who say they want more legal immigration.
Oh, you can have 1 million people plowing as long as it's legal. That's good. Is that really good? Doesn't it depend on why they're coming in? Like, for example, you have some of these tech companies, they're laying off all these American workers and then they're importing H-1B visa people to work for cheaper. I think that's a total scam. I don't think that that's good. Yes, it is legal the way they're doing it. I acknowledge that. They're using something that's on the books. But is that good policy for us as a country to have Americans put out of work and then to bring in H-1B visa, and then they do chain migration from the H-1B. So the H-1B is bringing in other folks, and it's almost like indentured servitude because you can't leave the company, and so these companies love it because they save a lot of money off of it, but that's not putting the American people first.
And finally, Good Morning America giveth, and Good Morning America taketh away. We'll start with the latter. Good Morning America, yes, not some random TikToker, actually made the connection between the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad and Nazis.
Play on words is being compared to Nazi propaganda with racial undertones.
The pun, good genes, activates troubling historical associations for this country. The American eugenics movement in its prime between like 1900 and 1940 weaponized the idea of good genes just to justify white supremacism.
And Good Morning America giveth, meet a real man, the man who stopped the mass stabbing at the Traverse City, Michigan Walmart over the weekend.
I didn't think of anything other than trying to get him away from people and get him isolated and get him to put the knife down.
Former Marine Derek Perry says he was checking out at the Walmart Saturday afternoon when he heard a commotion.
A lady was like screaming for her son, and all the employees and patrons were clamoring, trying to run in different directions.
The suspect, 42-year-old Bradford James Gilley, fleeing to the parking lot. Perry and others dropping their groceries to surround the man. Perry pulled his gun. It's legal to open carry in Michigan.
Unfortunately, there was kind of like a mob mentality, and some very disturbing things were being said on how to deal with the situation, and I had to block all of that out and focus on him.
Barry, who works in a hospital, says he doesn't feel like a hero.
The only thing that separated me from the other gentleman that had stepped in as well was what I was carrying in my hands. I think I would have ran out there or walked out there and helped either way. It was just a moment of, I've got a duty to protect.
And that's what happened while we were away.
And that, folks, is masculinity right there.
Indeed.
Well done. Well done, good and faithful servant. That is, we found one. All right, clip that click or take that clip right there. Make sure to bookmark that clip. You found one. Where are the men? We found one right there. There's one right there. Aaron's montage brought to you by our friends over at Jace Medical. They came to us in the wake of what was happening with the scamdemic, concerned that medications that were life-saving for decades, like hydroxychloroquine, all over the world. Medications like ivermectin that were given Nobel Peace Prizes just 5 years before the scamdemic began were now being smeared. Even on NFL pregame shows, it was so systemic. Well, they got to thinking, if they're going to do that to hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, why wouldn't they do that too? So they came up with a Jace case, and this is of venerable antibiotics like amoxicillin, doxycycline, and more. But they've also now expanded it. You can add a lot of the medications that you're in need of on a daily basis. If you've got loved ones that they're in need of as well, to have that peace of mind so that you're prepped, you're ready to go for the next time. Oh, that could never happen here. And it happens here again and again and again. All right, get the Jace case today. Customize it if you want to do that. Up to a 12-month supply of the medications that you know work for you. Plus, if we have trade wars, things of that nature, prices may shoot up. Well, you've got a backup plan just in case that happens that gives you reinforcements for a few months, all right? So use the promo code DEACE, D-E-A-C-E, when you go to jace.com to get your Jace case. Promo code DEACE for a discount at checkout at jace.com, J-A-S-E, jace.com, promo code DEACE at checkout for a discount. Real quick on Prasad, Robert Malone was brought in. I'm trying to remember his official title now, but he was brought in as part of the advisory panel that RFK Jr. put together. And he posted this morning, this is a quick postscript on Aaron's story there on Prasad. Malone posted this morning that it is believed that Prasad is who approved a new round of was it Moderna for kids?
Right.
While RFK Jr. was on vacation, and that Prasad was the one that approved that. And that's what Malone posted this morning.
Nice.
And I've seen mixed things about this guy. Some people saying that this is just a scalp from Big Pharma. I've seen what you just pointed out as well. So it's definitely a mixed review.
So there's that. Here's the thing I want to get into first and foremost in your because we are a biblical worldview show. And Josh Hawley, I think we've had him on once, maybe twice on the show. Because he had written a book about manhood.
Once
I think
that
I
remember,
yeah. And I think he had written a book about masculinity and manhood, right? And at least in his messaging, has seemed to be a biblical worldview guy. I believe he once dropped the term Pelagian in a press release, and I am fairly confident that if you have ever listened, unless you listen to WHO radio from 9 to 11:30, from about 1990 till about 2012, or you listen to this show at any point in time, I am pretty confident you have never heard the term Pelagian used in everyday topical analysis and conversation. Fair? I'm pretty confident.
Good odds.
I'm going to take those odds that if it wasn't me or one of my mentors, Jan Michelson, using the term, and I frankly got it from him. So if it wasn't me or him, all right, using this term, chances are you've not heard this word before and had no idea how that is relevant. A heretic from a millennia ago is relevant to current political discourse. But Josh Hawley once dropped the term Pelagian in one of his press releases. I remember being very impressed by it at that time. So since he's going to drop terms like that down, I'm going to honor the terms of the engagement, and we're going to address him just strictly from a biblical worldview standpoint. Fair?
Yeah.
Josh Hawley is dead wrong. There's just as much justification for what Josh Hawley is advocating as twisting the Bible for amnesty. Letting migrants and illegal aliens not assimilate into your culture, but instead invade you so that they can replace you and instead impose their culture. Same level of biblical discourse from Josh Hawley on this issue as you get from Democrats who bastardize the Bible on immigration. He's just dead wrong. There's just no justification. I feel like I have to go back to like the very beginning and the dawn of conservative media. Okay. So now if you're older, you probably heard Rush Limbaugh do this show 5,000 times. Guys, how much money does the government have? How much money does the government earn? How much money does the government produce? How much money is it?
It only has the money we give it.
That's right. The answer is zero. Okay. So therefore, if the government is going to give money to people, since the government doesn't actually generate any revenue, doesn't actually have any money. So if the government is going to give money to people, will said money be from said government? No. It will be from
you.
Yeah, other people. And we used to call that redistribution of wealth. Now, the Bible has a very technical term for what happens when you take money out of somebody's pocket against their will and then put it in your pocket and call it a tithe, okay? Or a stimulus or whatever the Sam Hill you want to call it. It's a one-syllable term. You may have heard it before, but it's been a minute, okay? That term would be theft. And it made it into the greatest hits of God's don'ts, by the way, of things not to do. I mean, God gave the Israelites 618 laws, but 10 of them were like, the greatest hits album. They were called commandments. And among them, don't commit theft. Don't steal.
And they were actually so important, they were the only ones you needed until you spit in their face and then you said, oh, how do you like these apples? Now you get 617
more.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about this economically, because it actually, what Hawley is suggesting actually ties into the problem with our current economy right now. So we had 3% growth in the last quarter. That's very good. We have not necessarily undone the pre-existing inflation that Trump inherited, but the rate of growth of inflation has slowed down to a crawl since he took office. We are bringing in billions of dollars in revenue via tariffs. And yet the president's approval rating is barely over 40%. Composite. While at the same time, Democratic Party image polling is the lowest it's ever been in the history of modern polling. Why? Well, I would argue, and I'm pretty confident the gentleman that I'll bring on at the end of the show will argue this better than I am capable. I would argue it's because during COVID, we did exactly what Josh Hawley is advocating, but with even way more money. And we send people just stimulus checks, bonus checks, reparations for COVID. That's what Hawley's asking for, reparations for tariffs. Why do they need reparations for tariffs? We're making money on the deal. Does this even make any sense? The time to have done this politically, by the way, was like 3 months ago and everybody was losing their minds over it. If you're going to do a political stunt, do it when people are losing their minds. Don't do it when people have actually realized, and even TV networks now that have literally tried to assassinate Trump are even now admitting, okay, I mean, maybe we've got that one wrong. Okay. So now we're going to do a gimmick with this. So politically, it's just stupid. Biblically, it's heterodoxical. And I got to assume if Josh is dropping Pelagian in his press releases, he knows what that word means too. Fair? Okay. Economically, it's disastrous. Because from 2020 to now, we have printed almost 80% of all U.S. dollars in circulation since the dawn of this country. And what that has done has given the Fed the excuse, it's frankly running out of time to use, but to not lower interest rates. Well, there's too much inflation. We can't lower interest rates. See, the Fed doesn't want to lower interest rates. because they didn't want Donald Trump to be president of the United States. The reason why we need the interest rates lowered is because since folks won't vote for cutting back their government gravy train, they won't vote for that. That's the sad reality we're in, okay? You can't get them to vote for curbing Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. You can't get them to do that. That's over 40% of the entire deficit in the government right there. Next after those three programs, the military, it's 16%. So since people won't vote for that, that means we need to increase the amount of revenue coming in. When you're in a hole, there's only two options. Cut back what's going out, or increase what's coming in. Those are your two options, right? So if you want to run for office these days, here's what you need to know. People don't want to vote for you to give them to raise their taxes, and they don't want to vote for you to cut their spending. So good luck. All right, that's where we are. Okay, they don't want to vote for tax increases, and they don't want to vote for you to cut their gravy train. Well, that only leaves then one option. We got to increase the amount of money that is coming in. Revenues have to go up. That's what Trump is doing tariffs about, trying to raise revenues. Why did he want interest rates to drop? Well, because many of us, me included, you included, Aaron too, although with a young family, he's probably good where he is at. Many of us are sitting on homes that have greatly accrued value and equity in the last few years. And so on paper, it looks like overall we're doing very well. But the problem is we can't get liquid with any of that money because, like in your situation, I pay you pretty well. You want to move your family closer to the Des Moines Christian schools that you're taking Catholic refuge in, right? Yes. As we speak. But the problem isn't that whether you can afford a home now by that school. It's can you find a buyer to buy your home so you don't take a bath on that home, exactly. So then you can afford the home by the school, right?
Exactly.
And this is happening everywhere in America right now. The greatest access to liquidity. Amazon just had their Prime Days, one of the worst one of the worst inputs that they've ever had in the history since they started that. I think in 2014 or something they started it. Because people just don't have the discretionary spending that they have had in the past. And well, what's a big deposit of liquid that if you could get access to it would give them that kind of spending power, go out and buy homes. And chances are, if you're going to buy a new home, you could be like, well, maybe I kind of want, that wall painted, or I want, this vanity redone, right? Which means I'm going to go to Lowe's more, and I'm going to go to Home Depot more. I'm going to go to, the Carpet Center more. This kind of stuff filters down throughout the economy. Well, the greatest deposit of liquid that everybody is sitting on is their homes. For the average American, that is. But, listen, they're telling me a home I bought in 2006 for $230,000. They're telling me as we head into 2026 that home is well over worth $400,000. That sounds like a great investment in about 20 years, right? Right. But if I don't want to put a sign in my yard, but if I chose to do so and I could not find a buyer, would it matter how much on paper they're telling me my home is worth? No. It's just numbers on a page, just numbers on a piece of paper. I can't get liquid. So what Trump is trying to do is have the interest rates lowered so that more liquidity gets into the hands of the average American, and we start spending more in the economy. And so the stock market's up here. The economy grew at 3%. That's pretty robust. Oncoming inflation's largely been stalled. But because of the inflation we accrued with all the COVID spending and all the bonus checks during COVID, that has given the Fed the excuse, the fig leaf that it needs, to not give Trump what he wants. Hey, Daniel were here, he'd say, well, listen, Trump made his bed by signing off on all that spending. Now he's got to sleep in it. There's some truth in that too, right? Sure. Okay. But the Fed does, it wouldn't matter if Trump did that or not. They still wouldn't want to give Trump what they want. I think that's pretty obvious. Although Trump shouldn't have done that, and he's paying the price for that now. But it gives them the excuse for not cutting rates and giving us more access to liquidity so that the average person feels down here what's happening economically up here. Because they want to keep that approval rating right there hovering barely above 40%. That's what's going on here. So along comes Josh Hawley to say, you know what? I've got an idea. Let's add to that. Let's print even more money we don't have. For what? A program that actually is generating a profit. What in the Sam Hill do you need a bonus check for something generating a profit? At least during COVID, we had literally no idea if the world was going to end 6 months after we cut those checks. At least life as we knew it. We had no idea. We didn't know. At least if you want to go back and retcon that and people just panicked, mistakes were made, let's just move on. All right. This is working. What in the world do the American people need a bonus for something generating a profit for? They don't. You know what we'd call this if a Democrat said it? What do you think we'd call it? Socialism. That's what we would call it. No, Josh, what people need is actually for interest rates to get cut so they can have access to all that money they're sitting on right now. That is doing them in this economy no good. That's actually what they need. Now, here's the thing. I have said over much of this year that the esoteric philosophical arguments about economic theory that, frankly, I originally got into this business to have these kinds of discussions and arguments, just there's not much of an audience for today. And that's unfortunate. It's not what I want. It's not what I'm in favor of, okay? But if I'm doing evangelism in Burma, I may prefer speaking Spanish. I might think Spanish is a cooler language. I might like Spanish more. I might be more easily able to translate what the Bible says from Spanish to Burmese, okay, or whatever language they speak there, right? It might be what I want, okay? But do you think how many people in Burma do you think know Spanish, do you think?
0. So
it would really not be relevant whether I would want that or I think Spanish is the superior language. More people in the world speak Spanish than Burmese, so it only makes sense that we make that more of a universal construct to communicate universal truth, right? All those things might be true, good, beautiful, great, okay? But where am I? Burma. What do they speak? Burmese. So guess what? It's great on a white paper. I can write a nice column and kvetch my purity on social media on the issue, but it won't make a hill of beans difference to the people of Burma, because that's where we are. Get my reference here? We have to accept the era that we live in, not the one we wish to live in. That does not mean, however, we just put up with all kinds of nonsense. Someone comes up to you, you're doing the evangelism in Burma and says, "Hail Satan" in Burmese. You just look at him and say, "Hey, I appreciate your local customs and language." Is that what you do? Nope. Doesn't mean we don't have any lines. We don't ever draw any lines. Doesn't mean we don't ever call out any foolishness. Doesn't mean just can say whatever the Sam Hill you want. Doesn't mean you can just literally just squeeze out whatever stink brick of non-logic that comes forth from your bowels. And we just say, "Oh, well, yeah, I guess we can't do anything about that." Nope. This is stupidity at the highest level. But if you think I'm being too harsh on Josh, let me just say to him what I've said to all the raise the minimum wage people on the left my entire career. How many times have you heard me say, "Todd, why just make it $1,000 an hour? Why can't it be $2,000 an hour?" I mean, if it's supposed to be a living wage, can you can you raise a family of 4 on $15 an hour, 40 hours a week? No. Okay, and since we can just artificially inseminate, wages and print as much money as we want, and there's no drawbacks whatsoever, this stuff just all exists in a vacuum and in a test tube, then just pay people $50 an hour. Why don't we just do that? Same thing here applies to Josh Hawley. $600. So we're going to make it that people are just going to sit on all that equity and not we're going to deny all that liquidity in the market. We're going to give Trader Powell there at the Fed. We're going to give Trader Powell another excuse not to lower rates for the rest of the year. For $600? We're at the point now that Josh Hawley, frankly, needs an IQ test. We're going to hand Jerome Powell political cover to keep the microeconomy as lockjawed as it is currently for the average American right now for $600 freaking bucks. For $600. Why not $6,000? Why not $6 million? Better yet, Josh, why not $666,000 or million? The average person contemplating voting Republican in America ever think they're more moved by $600 a month or the ability to get down on their home and cash in $60,000 of equity? Todd, what do you think the answer to that one is?
It's pretty easy.
Pretty easy one. So, yes, I know some of you have been frustrated. That's why, listen, other than the fact I just love him as a human being, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. But one of the reasons we bring Daniel on here is so you guys just don't think I've gone totally soft in my acknowledgement of the reality of the environment in which we live. But do not take my acknowledgement of the reality to mean we just put up with all kinds of nonsense. No, brother, we're not handing Robert Powell, Trader Powell, or Jerome Powell, I should say. We're not handing Trader Powell at the Fed a weapon of economic mass destruction for $600 frickin' bucks, bro. No, we're not. It's not only unbiblical. I would argue it's anti-biblical. It's not only unbiblical. It not only violates the natural laws of economics. It's not only too late for a gimmick and a stunt anyway. The time to have done this is when people were panicking everywhere about the tariffs. Now, NBC News thinks they're cool. It's stupid. I mean, like, dumb. Like, I'm insulted it's so dumb. Like, I expect a better class of scam. We're going to give Jerome Powell all kinds more economic leverage to lockjaw the economy for $600 frickin' bucks. Get out of here. And take Pelagius with you, Josh. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I do think this is the danger of the Democrats being so feckless and stupid right now, is that there will be a tendency for Republicans just to default to cruise control. Mm-hmm. That it's only Donald Trump's job to be aggressive. We just kind of sit back and make the trains run on time and don't really establish a clear vision that is anybody's responsibility other than Donald Trump. See, that's when you're having an enemy that it should make you better, because the importance of defeating that enemy, not for yourself but for your children, just keeps you uber focused. Josh, on this front, for whatever reason, maybe needs to have better people around him, but he clearly lost his focus. He's shown better of himself. I hope we get that back, because this is just, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but this is just this is lazy. This is just really, really lazy.
It is. That's why I'm insulted. Lazy is a great word. Great word. Aaron?
Excuse me. So two things. Number one, anytime I see a story about, hey, government, we should start cutting checks to people, I'm immediately dubious. Number two, this comes off very gimmicky as well. So, but with those two things on the table, and it's really hard for me to play devil's advocate here because those are two big stinkers. But
on the other hand, he has a wonderful singing voice.
Yes. Would you change your mind depending on whom was actually paying for the tariffs? Because right now, it doesn't seem like the American consumer is paying for the tariffs. If the American consumer, as we were all told around liberation, this is just going to be a tax on the American consumer, wouldn't this just be like getting a tax rebate?
See, that's a great question. And that's where we get into the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath, right? Okay. So we're not here to serve an economic theory. We're here for economic theories, and we're not here to even serve the natural laws of economics. We're here for those things were put in motion by our Creator to serve us. So your point of leverage there, who's the aggrieved party? That is a spot-on point that you are making. And I tried to address it a little by saying Josh is too late for this, but you articulated it better than I did there, Aaron. So well done. We'll come back. Let's play buy, sell, or hold. When we do, stay tuned. Hey, Hey, our friends at Patriot Mobile know there are multiple choices that you could make when it comes to choosing your mobile phone service, and there are new ones popping up all the time, even now in the parallel economy universe as well. But remember who the OGs in this space were. And that's our friends at Patriot Mobile, which means from the very beginning, they have not only been offering you equal to better service than you get from the communist companies who hate your guts, but they have been from the very beginning investing a good amount of those profits back into prophetic action on behalf of you guys' shared values. I've seen this firsthand. When I travel the country, I see signage at many of the events I attend. I see signage for Patriot Mobile at those exact same events. I'm a customer of Patriot Mobile. Haven't looked back since we made the switch during the scamdemic back in 2020. When T-Mobile let it be known they're going to start censoring text you send privately for misinformation, I'm like, tapped out. I'm out. Haven't looked back. Family hasn't regretted it ever since. They make it as customizable for you as possible. Keep your number, switch your number, keep your phone, upgrade your phone. You get access to all 3 of the networks within their main hub that you can switch anytime as a member for free. No questions asked. And if you're locked into a contract, they've got contract buyouts to get you out of that terrible deal as well to help with that. So now's the time to make the switch by going to patriotmobile.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve, and you'll get a free month of service to get you started. Free month of service to get you started with the promo code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Steve. I debated with myself whether to bring this up because I didn't want to get it taken out of context. But I decided I'm going to. Even though it still will likely get taken out of context. But I detest punking out. It just is, it's just anathema to me. Even if it probably is to my benefit just to let something go, I just struggle with it. Let me say up front, unquestionably, and we just spent how much time talking about the MSNBC thing yesterday about whiteness, right? Unquestionably, the spirit of the age is actively engaged in anti-white racism. Let me make that very, 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 very clear. And I don't think we should couch its terms. I don't think we should find other ways to define it for fear of what will be thought of us if we say such things. Similar to, no, you're not a trans woman, you're a dude. So we're not calling it that. No, you didn't make a choice. You didn't practice reproductive freedom. You murdered your kid. Okay. No, you didn't have an affair. You committed adultery. You see what I'm saying? Just like we would not play footsie or urge you to play footsie or cutesy with the terms du jour of the spirit of the age on any of these other fronts, nor should we do so here. This is very clearly anti-white racism. Why? Because the largest voting bloc the Republican Party has had for an entire generation are white people. And after a generation of leftist indoctrination in the schools, it's not a majority of whites, but there's a significant amount of whites who want that self-loathing. They were indoctrinated into it by the university system. They think it is some sort of demonic version of seeking absolution or penance before a priest or confession. It's some sort of warped demonic variation of this. Oh, yes, I am inherently racist. I'm systemically so. Yes, I am. Yes. And so they've got enough people there. They've built enough people there within the white community to go along with all the other folks in the minority communities that they frankly have brainwashed to create a significant coalition of voters in America. And if you're not a white person that will join in on this self-loathing against your race, your heritage, etc., then you're a Nazi and a fascist. And it needs to be plainly spoken, that is what is happening. It needs to be directly confronted, that is what is occurring. Have I made that very, 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 very clear?
Yes.
I do not think there should be any cute language used at all. It should be flat out and abundantly pointed out that these people's goal, their primary political goal, their primary spiritual goal is the removal of Christianity from a place of influence in the culture. Their primary political goal is the marginalization of white people who will not go along with their self-loathing indoctrination. Clear?
Got it.
All right. I am, though, and likely will always be, uncomfortable, if not opposed, to the idea of countering that with like a white identity. First and foremost, it's unbiblical. The racial identity at all, as we know it today, as we understand it in our contemporary culture, simply is not a biblical construct on any level whatsoever. The Bible will draw distinctions between cultures, but in terms of external identities as we define them today in our cultural parlance, there's basically just saints and sinners, Jews and Gentiles, men and women, and it pretty much ends there. You weren't like I'm an Edomite Israelite. I mean, my ancestors were from Eden, now across the way, and I migrated here. None of that existed. Well, I'm from the albino tribe. We're really none of that. Just the stuff that we talk about and discuss doesn't exist anywhere within a biblical framework. And there is a movement afoot on our side who vehemently disagrees with what I just told you. Outside of morally, I'm against it because I think it's unbiblical. I don't have white pride for the same reason I don't have white guilt. What did I ask you yesterday? Do you even know what whiteness is? I don't know what it is. I mean, I was on food stamps, guys. I was on government cheese growing up. I was born to a teenage mom. Didn't know who my biological was until I was almost an adult. I mean, that's the, I mean, give me a different style. Give me a different style of hair and more melanin in my skin, and that's a pretty common story in much of the urban black hip hop community. Lexicon.
That's
correct?
The majority story.
In great, exactly. So I don't even know what it is. I have no clue what it is. But we have to be very careful about adopting this idea that the counter to anti-white racism is the promotion of some kind of white heritage or pride. Because I believe, to quote the great prophet Admiral Akbar, it's a trop. I think they're fine having that discussion over there. I think that's where they're at. They think they're the home team. And I think, white boy summer to counter the summer of George Floyd love, I think they love that over there. I think they're happy to see us do it. It's like Nick Saban at Alabama. He's just happy to let you run the ball on, 65% of the time against his defense. In fact, even if you'll break off a few runs here and there, he's just ecstatic because he knows over the course of 60 minutes, he's going to kick your butt doing that. Playing right into his hands. And the story that, Aaron, you featured at the end of your montage. So here's the thing. For about 24 hours, Traverse City Police would not release the identity or a picture of the murderer. So I shared that. Because, again, let's be honest, 9 times out of 10 in our culture, if not higher, the reason why they don't want to share that is what? It doesn't fit either the racial narrative Correct. Or it doesn't fit either the Islam narrative, right?
Right.
So I shared that, okay? Well, lo and behold, they finally do. And it's a white guy that looks like he could be a neighbor in any of our largely white suburbs, okay? And a black guy who would not look like most of the guys that lives in our white suburbs. But he comes out, and he's the good guy with the gun who takes this guy out, right? So I made sure that I shared that too. Because what I am 100% confident in is that God will not honor his people sacrificing their integrity for a political narrative at a molecular level. And I think we need to be very, very careful about that. Ultimately, voters matter. Audiences matter. But ultimately, we're playing for an audience of one here. And if this is the last show I ever do in my life, I will, because I have a chest grabber when I walk out of here today, what will happen next is I will not face you. And I will not face Tyler Cardin or Gaston Mooney, the people who run the Blaze. I won't face the board that owns it. I won't face the president. I won't face the Pope. I'm going to face God. And that the jury, it's a one-man jury. It's a one-man job. It's a one-man assessment. So we're really ultimately playing for an audience of one here. And listen, on a purely cultural level, do I have more in common in terms of what foods do we like? What pursuits do we enjoy as hobbies outside of when we're working together? How do our kids interact and behave? Do I have more in common with the white lesbian couple that lives next door to me, flying the tranny flag all year round? Do I have more in common with them than I would in a black African from Nairobi, from Kenya, spirit-filled believer who's never left his native land, doesn't know my language, doesn't know what a college football Saturday is? Because the lesbian couple next door to me, they're big Hawkeye fans. They watch all the same Big Ten football games I watch every weekend, right? Okay, so. Do I have more in common with the white lesbian couple next door to me on my street flying the tranny flag than I do in terms of culture and custom? Do I have more in common with them than I do a black spirit-filled believer from Kenya who's never left that hemisphere one time in his life, let alone his village?
Yes, and you could do an entire show about the consequences of that.
Yes, yeah. That being said, on that which God ultimately holds the most preeminent and the most important, that the Word of God clearly prioritizes over all of our customs and habits and leisure pursuits. Do I have more in common with the white lesbian couple flying the tranny flag on my street next door to me, who also love Big Ten football just as much as I do, and grill out all the same food that I do every summer? Or the black spirit-filled believer in Kenya that will never once set foot on American soil, let alone leave his tribal village?
In theory, the latter, but this is where the rubber meets the road.
That is, depending on our churches.
Is it a good idea for your brothers in Christ in Kenya to en masse immigrate to your neighborhood? Is it good for them? Good for...
Probably not.
Yeah.
And I'm fine having that conversation too. Thank you, Aaron, for interjecting that. That's an important interjection. I am not saying, by the way, it is wrong to want to preserve your customs and heritages. God creates a nation. There's 12 tribes. They all have their customs, their traditions. All right. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I want to make that also very, very clear. But when we take it a step further to, now that's my identity too. So, because once you take on an identity, it's what drives you. Remember that guy we mocked this time last year during NFL preseason? That was taking modern worship songs and turning them into songs for the Indianapolis Colts for preseason games?
Of course.
See, that stuff happens to you. That's his identity. He's not just an Indianapolis Colt fan. He's an Indianapolis cult, not cult. He's in a cult. It has taken on his identity. This is idolatry. He's allowed this to warp and redefine how he sees his existence of things. And if we're going to respond with anti-white racism by promoting there is some kind of unique white culture, the Druids were white. The Norse were white. The Vikings were white. What do we have? When Christendom arrived, what happened to those cultures? You know, this is your church. You know its history better than we do. What did Christendom do to those cultures? It erased them.
Conquered, took it over,
Yep.
or put
It erased
whatever way you want.
Well, they were all white. I mean, the people that St. Patrick went to minister to were just as white as he was, right? Why didn't he just take, we got a lot in common here. We're just, that's not what he did. He literally conquered a country. Those cultures were erased. Your melanin level, nor your lack thereof, has zero to do with your character. Zero to do with it. the subculture you grew up in and what it accepts and what it tolerates has quite a bit to do with it. And as our colleague Jason Whitlock, who's taping his show right at the same time I think that we're on right now, is not fond of saying, but points out all too often, is his native subculture, the values of identity that it has caused them to adopt has destroyed their actual subculture, right?
Yeah.
He's right to be concerned about that. But we don't have like uniquely white values to like inject into Harlem. I don't even know what those are. 70% of MSNBC's audience is white. They have a completely different value system than we do. They're just white too. So and here's the thing too, when you go too far down that road, when you step on that rake, then you run into stories like what happened in Traverse City, Michigan, and that spills back on you and makes you look like a fool. Chances are, before he grabbed a knife and started killing people at the Traverse City Walmart, chances are in terms of customs and preferences, I probably had way more in common with the guy wielding the knife than the guy with the gun who took him out, probably. Fair? Just as a baseline, not even knowing, just guessing. Middle-aged white guy, we probably have way more similar life experiences. But on the things God says are ultimately the most important about us as human beings, did I have more in common with the guy wielding the knife, trying to kill innocent people that looks like me, or the black guy it was the good guy with the gun who took him out?
No question the latter.
No question the latter.
Somehow that isn't clear because we have way too many idols. And,
yes.
And we have excuses for why we won't smash them. And until we deal with that, we're going to have White Boy Summer. Another version of White Boy Summer is what we're just about to get to in a matter of weeks. The countdown clock was going on a regular basis there on my computer this morning. It's like their advent calendar. I can't wait!
Like the advent calendar.
Hey, if you won't smash that idol, you're going to get White Boy Summer, and you're never going to get to the truth.
That's one of your best references yet, by the way. It's like your advent calendar. That was good. That was very good.
Thank you.
Point of order. Again, nothing wrong with wanting to, you have traditions, customs, you want to live by those. Nothing wrong with that. You want to protect and defend them? I'm here to help you protect and defend them. But just remember, you can't turn that into an idol. Then you become exactly like that you're trying to oppose, because that's what they did to become your enemy. More in a moment. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here alongside Todd Erz and Aaron McIntyre. And all of you can let us know, although hopefully not all at once, what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. You can do so by emailing the program, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then also let us know if you love the podcast. We love you because you're the biggest part of our audience. So let us know and the world know that you love us by leaving us a 5-star review. Tens of thousands of you have done that for us. Thank you. Keep those coming. We appreciate them all. And then make sure to hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow. That'll make sure that every time we do a new episode, it shows up in your feed there every single time. And this part of the show brought to you by us here at Blaze TV. Now you can get a discounted subscription, $20 off your subscription, so you don't have to worry about things like, hey, I subscribed to your YouTube channel 5 times. And then you had Peter McCullough on yesterday to talk about his growing skepticism with so-called vaccines. And I just realized they're telling me at YouTube I'm not subscribed to you again, so I never saw it. Yeah, that's a common theme.
The story? YouTube is now going to be using AI to determine whether their users are above or below the age of 18. They're saying it's for safety, but especially when you consider the right-wing bent of young men.
Yes. To quote the great prophet Nipsey Russell. Right. You know what? Just bypass all that. Just come directly to us. Plus, you'll get all kinds of exclusive content from us here at Blaze TV as well. Use the code DEACE and get $20 off your annual subscription at blazetv.com/DEACE. Code DEACE. $20 off your annual subscription at blazetv.com/DEACE by using the code DEACE. That works out to $8 a month. 26 cents a day. Gotta believe. I gotta believe. Erzin insulting everything you hold dear every day for 2 hours is at least worth 26 cents a day to you.
That is value added right there.
Yes. All right, blazetv.com/Deace. Use the promo code Deace for the discount at blazetv.com/Deace. And let's get to it. It is time to play buy, sell, or hold. We'll get through as many of these as we can. What remains, we will do for subscribers exclusively at blazetv.com/Deace later today. Todd and I have not seen any of your submissions. Aaron has seen them all, chosen the ones he thought were best fit or most annoying to put on the air. And then, Todd, you and I are going to decide, are we going to buy that? Are we going to sell it? You are permitted to use a hold. That is allowed, okay? However, if you use your hold, all right, then you're going to be required to access unlawful carnal knowledge on what Lindsey Graham does during his August recess, brother.
Could I get clarification on what an August recess is? Because it sounds bleak.
Where it comes to Lindsey, they could have a lot of meanings, a lot of them. All right, let's get to it, Aaron. Go.
All right, we'll go first to Uncontexted Deace 2. Buy, sell, or hold. The Steve Deace Show needs to have a butter sculpture at the Iowa State Fair.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Buy.
I would buy that.
Buy, sell, or hold. Lindsey Graham wants to butter us up.
Well,
I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell because I need it to be. I need it to sell. Hey, I finally saw the butter cow. I'd never seen it. Well, yeah, no, I had not. Because when I used to go to the fair every day at WHO, I just kept my head down and went right to the Crystal Studio and head down, walked right out. So when Amy and I went to the fair last year, first time I'd been there in about 15 years, I saw the butter cow for the first time. I was born here. I've lived here more than any other place, including the last 30 years, and I finally saw the butter cow. It is pretty cool. It's just a giant cow made of butter, and it's pretty cool.
The fair is incredible. That's the funny thing about you claiming white trash status, yet you're too good for the state fair your whole life. Come on, man. I mean, pick a lane.
That's a good point. You know what? I'm ashamed. You're right about that.
Bella and I are going to a concert at the grandstand.
For which one? Or do you want to divulge?
Pitbull. We're going to see Pitbull.
Are you kidding me?
All right.
Oh my God.
This is white trash. This truly has become white trash, right?
Aaron,
I might have to just the last.
He's a great American.
The
Todd.
last segment I just did, just scratch that. It is white boy summer after all. Never mind. All right,
Aaron.
We started off with the butter cow and Aaron and Bella going to see Pitbull. All right,
Aaron, as insular as it gets, and this is the time. His coming out party is a Pitbull concert.
What are you talking about?
I love life.
I
love life.
I just want to see Aaron. Yeah. I just want to see Aaron what he does when that's going on.
It's like Night at the Roxbury.
Aaron's just sitting there. Yes, the whole time. Yes.
My persona is synonymous with Pitbull. I don't know what you're talking about. A tangential FIU fan because of Pitbull. Thank you very much.
I don't know what you just said.
FIU?
Florida International University.
Yeah,
that's his alma mater.
Well, Pitbull, and he's got a big sponsorship.
Yeah, he's like their NIL guy. It's not working out too well for him, though. He's trying to give their money away. No one will take it, really. Yeah.
Next, we go to, I don't know what this name is, TAC for IDAG. I don't know what I just said there, but that's the name of the account. 7 new rules for a better Hollywood movie experience. 1, no more than 2 sequels for any movie ever. No reboots until a movie is at least 20 years old. No more than 2 superhero movies per year. Number 4, a 10-year Star Wars hiatus. Number 5, horror movies relegated to Halloween season. Number 6, the elimination of commercials before a movie. And number 7, no more than 3 previews for upcoming movies.
All right, leave this up there. Can I go through these one by one? All right. No more than 2 sequels for any movie ever. So listen, sometimes like Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home is a great movie. All right. So sometimes the 4th movie can be really good, but by and large, I think that this would serve IPs probably. Fair? To just do no more than trilogies. By and large. So I'll buy that. Okay. No reboots until a movie is at least 20 years old. I love this idea.
Make it 40.
Well, you know what? If I were your age, I'd be fine with it at 50. I don't know that I'm fine with 40 years. But I think 20 years is a good idea. I think that's fair. I think that's good too. Bye. I love number 3. Just have Marvel and DC each put out a movie every year. One big event movie every year. One can be in the summer and the other one can be in the Christmas, so they kind of own those windows. And put everything they can into making those movies as singularly good as they possibly can, rather than have creative teams, VFX teams, working on multiple projects at the same time, trying to get them out in the same year. I saw one of the stars, I can't remember which one, of next year's Avengers Doomsday, say that she wasn't sure. It was a female star. I just don't know who. I can't remember who it was. She wasn't sure if she was done shooting her scenes because they haven't finished the script yet. They've been filming this movie for like 3 months. They haven't finished the script.
That's an alarm bell.
Yeah, so that all be gotten rid of if we did number 3. I love number 3. Okay. Also, it's because you know what? I hate to admit that Erzin was right about this. Okay, but in this last year, I always have kept like a pumpkin spice leftover stash after the holidays, just to cure the Jones, for between January and August, right?
I know you do.
But this last year, I mean, I'm just gonna admit it. It was idolatrous. I mean, I had if we had a zombie apocalypse, I was gonna be pumpkin spiced at least for the first year and a half. Okay. And you know what I found? I actually ended up throwing some of it out. Because I found by overindulging on it at that level, it didn't. And so help me, Erzin.
Just keep swimming, Dory. Just keep swimming.
If you say I told you so, I'll break your back
almost
again.
There.
All right? But
I would like to escape from this diatribe.
But it didn't feel as special. And I'm like, you know what? I'm throwing the rest of this out. I got to give myself like 3 months just to build the hype back up for it all over again. It just was too much. See, I think that would build more hype. They'd make better movies. So, you know what? I'm going to buy
up the Earth, Wind, and Fire after the love is gone.
Yeah, I think I'm going to buy his entire thing because it emphasizes quality over quantity. Okay, and I think I can get you to buy in on this stuff too because it restores this stuff as a escape and a break, and not like a perpetual ongoing industry of distraction where one of these is always coming out, something's always being redone. You see what I'm saying? So just you know what. DC has HBO Max, Marvel's got Disney Plus. You do one movie a year, and one of them puts their movie out at Christmas, and they do one series a year, and they put it out in the summer. And the other one puts their movie out in the summer and one series out at Christmas. And you just make those things as singularly great as you can, and they're nice escapes, and we look forward to them like Christmas time or Thanksgiving and everything else, okay? There's a season for it, all right? And it's just different seasons have different hobbies and different escapes. This is, movie season, escape season, but the perpetualness of it, one of these is coming out all the time, okay? Just encourages the dynamic that you're complaining about all the time.
The reason they're coming out all the time is because all the other kinds of movies are bad and woke, real cinema, the stuff you used to go to. And then other people are just too lazy. All they do is sit at home insularly and do it digitally, and they won't go out and be part of the populace anymore. So the main go-to for money, and they know they have you as slaves, is the toy lightsaber crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's the thing. You can rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic like this all you want and just make them nice escapes. This crowd has turned this. I just got done in my rant about sports, bro. The same thing. This is your religion. You're the guys, again, you're complaining about the porn while turning on porn again and watching more porn. You can't want this bad for it and have it ultimately be good. That's never going to work. You're the problem. The people are the problem. If you need superhero movies that bad as a grown man, you're never going to get quality. We found that we had it. Those are incredible movies. Marvel's, Batman, Lord of the Rings, and that amazing. Did we get softer or stronger as men when the time came to it in real life? It's obviously true. This is non-negotiable. You're a liar if you argue with me. We got weaker in the face of saying we like these movies that lifted up the ideal. We have to recognize what that's all about. We can't passively just ingest hero stories. We have to then go out and do. It's not complicated. It is hard, but it's not complicated. So you have a decision to make, man, because you're not a real man if this is all you can do is fanboy and prioritize this nonsense. It's never going to work.
Amen.
So is that a buy or sell or hold?
I'm buying it. I like it. I mean, having Halloween for Halloween. Listen, again, I love the fall. I shouldn't walk into Lowe's in July and already see. I should not see before my birthday when I go to get, some tools for my grill. I shouldn't be seeing Halloween decorations July 16th or something at Lowe's.
They showed a picture. There's Christmas stuff in the stores in June.
Now, if it's
July.
Hobby Lobby, though, and they have to be a season ahead, I understand. Okay. But for anybody else, you're right. I agree. It takes the specialness of it away. And I say that as someone who's a Christmas slap, man. Okay. But I love it. It still has to be special.
Next up, we go to this from Steven. AI-driven conversation about universal basic income will be the biggest policy debate of the 2026 midterms.
Too early, but I think what he's likely saying is because AI is, as Mike Rowe is pointing out, it's coming for the coders and some of those people, and they're going to be without jobs, okay? What he's probably saying is since many of those jobs are populated by lefties anyway, they're going to, say, hey, well, we need UBI because you guys took our careers and jobs away with AI. Okay, I think that is a great take, and that is coming. That argument is coming for sure. I just don't think it's coming as soon as next year. It's too early for that yet.
Yeah, and if it's the main conversation in this culture where there's so many other main conversations,
Todd will just break his own back.
Yeah,
and then just say goodbye, cruel world at that point. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
Clinton Shaw says Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction appeal will be overturned at the Supreme Court.
Sell.
And do you think they even take it up?
That's the other thing. I mean, it's not just can we get 5 judges, but can we get 4 to even agree to take it up? Okay, so she's got to cross 2 thresholds and hurdles. I'm gonna sell. I think Ghislaine Maxwell is playing a game, and I think it's a smart game on her behalf. Also, hey, I'll talk to Congress. I'll tell you what I know. I think she is trying to play some leverage. I'll make the appeal go away. Give me some kind of reduced sentence commutation. I think there's a negotiation happening here.
I more or less agree with that.
Holger Donsky has this. The first overseas NFL teams will be in order. First London, then Sao Paulo, then Mexico City, then Munich, then Frankfurt, then Dublin.
Oh, sell. It's sell. It's going to be Mexico City first.
Same hemisphere.
Yeah, same hemisphere. It'll be Mexico City first. And then I think it's a debate between which city in Germany and London after that, but it'll be Mexico City first.
See, it's the same conversation. Are we going to smash the idols or not? That's stupid. That's as stupid as Josh Hawley. But we don't say that because it's over here in the idols we don't want to smash land. That's retarded. Full stop.
I totally agree.
You don't want to see Michigan versus Western Michigan and Germany? When you said that on Friday, Todd, I thought you had fallen for like some sort of Onion headline or something. I thought you were, I'll just say, I thought you were very gullible. No, that's a real thing.
That's what Vicodin does to you after a week?
What's that?
I think we both know Todd's not taking any Vicodin.
This is my point. You can't talk about one application in all these silos and then in the other one say, no, that's untouchable because it's the same thing. And if you will not take care of your idol, you can't, the other idols are going to win. I just have zero patience for this. That's stupid. But we're going to race ahead. Too much money and all the arguments that also aren't even theoretically true anymore because practically the lie keeps the college football, that a total lie. There's not close to enough money. I was right again about that. That's why now we have to charge all students a lot more just to pay a handful of students to pay college to polish the idol that we love. Stop it.
Aaron, are you on Chargers money line in the Hall of Fame game tomorrow
Todd, you're
night?
going to love one of the posts or one of the submissions we have coming up. Next. Brutus, this is not the one. Brutus says the Cleveland Indians just had a second player caught up in a gambling scandal this season. Due to the legalization of gambling in all 50 states and the proliferation of gambling apps, the problem is much worse than the public realizes. At least one player or ref per game in all 4 major professional sports leagues in college football and basketball is betting on the game they are participating in.
I agree with the spirit of this, so I'll buy. I think the end goes probably too far. So I'm fine. See, here's the thing. I know a lot of times that we are in our culture, we're way more comfortable with singling people out than making generalizations. In a biblical worldview, it actually works in reverse. Generalizations happen all the time. In a biblical worldview, generalizations happen all the time. You need to be very cognizant of singling people out. It's the inverse in a biblical worldview. So I'm very uncomfortable with going as far as to saying it's that systemic of industries when I don't know the people and I don't work in them. But the spirit of what you said is accurate, so I will buy.
Yep.
Next, we go to Crash GSXR 750, who says Dan Bongino's cryptic message was an attempt to placate the masses. So this was the weekend message where he said during the course of an investigation at the FBI, particularly when it comes to weaponization, some discoveries that he was made privy to, quote, shook him to his core.
I'm going to sell because we don't know the answer to that yet. You know when we'll know the answer? The day after Dan's last day as deputy director of the FBI. That's when we'll know, you know? So listen, I love Dan. I'm also not naive. Of course, Dan has got to have one eye on what is he going to return to when this is over, okay? And his credibility. I think that's what led to, all the reports a couple weeks ago about, it's either Pam Bondi or it's me, okay? So, I'm not here to, for Saint Bongino. I love Dan, but I'm not here to anoint Saint Bongino as if he tiptoes between the raindrops and isn't making any calculations here, okay? He'd be silly. You don't become as successful as Dan has become by not making these kinds of calculations and not doing this kind of math in advance. But I think that we don't have on the other side of this, we don't have the benefit of doing this math in advance because the story hasn't been written yet. It's being written as we speak, right? And so we're going to know a lot the day after Dan Bongino leaves. We'll be able to, all these various questions and everything that people have about what did he do with his time there? Did he redeem it? Did he sell out? Did he find stuff out that, contradicted what he said on his show and now doesn't know what to do? All these various theories that are going on. I'm not into any of that because he's still there, right? The script is being written still. Let's wait until the story says the end, and then we'll know for sure what the story actually is. We just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Next, Auburn Tiger says George W. Bush calling Islam a religion of peace was one of the biggest lies of this century and a huge mistake.
100%. And when I first took over in News Talk Radio, I went after this pretty hard. I went back 6 months, or 2 years, I should say, into his first inaugural address where he put the angel Gabriel speaking to, Muhammad in the cave up there with Moses at Mount Sinai and Jesus as the Sermon on the Mount.
Gosh.
All right. I mean, so
it's just what this represents. Just worldview is destiny.
Yes, it is. Worldview is destiny. So I wholeheartedly not only buy this, I endorse it.
Agreed.
Okay. Let's take a deep breath. Brian Cleary says, before reading on air, send Todd out of the room to have a lightsaber battle with someone. Todd, you want to leave?
Nope.
Okay. Buy, sell, or hold for my upcoming fantasy football draft, taking the best running back in round 1, an elite wide receiver in round 2, and the best quarterback available in round 3, pair with a wide receiver team. And then fill with the best available after that is a decent strategy. Buy, sell, or hold. So running back first. Elite wide receiver second. Best quarterback in round 3. I'm selling. Don't take a quarterback.
Don't take the quarterback in round 3. Here's my thing. It depends. Are you in a 6-point league or a 4-point league?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
If you're in a 6-point league and a guy's got to throw 40 touchdowns, you need really good running backs and receivers to add to counter that. If it's in a 4-point league, which a lot of them are nowadays, then I agree. But to me, I think your strategy has to align with the actual rules of your league, how your league is scored. So I don't think it's. I think you draft in fantasy football similar to foreign policy nowadays. I don't think you can have some kind of dogmatic narrative you can impose on a balkanized and ever evolving world. It's not the Cold War anymore, So now, for example, running backs are making a comeback again. But for the last few years, if you didn't take a wide receiver in round 1, you were not getting one of the great ones and probably lost your league. Okay. But if you're in a league that has 6 points for a passing touchdown and you don't take one of the top quarterbacks before they're all gone, you're going to lose. Right? You're just not going to beat the guy whose quarterback is throwing 4 touchdowns and 300 yards every week. I don't care how good your running backs are. And maybe you'll get them once, but you're not going to get them over the course of an entire season. So I think you have to adapt it based on your scoring rules.
I'm proud of you, Brian, for at least understanding you should be marginally ashamed of yourself.
Nice.
Tim is next. I thought this was interesting or weird, but let's just decide for ourselves. Tim says, during COVID, neither the government nor church leaders have the authority to close the doors to the church. Therefore, Christ ultimately closed the church doors.
Ugh.
I can see where you're going with this, right? Jesus says, hey, stay faithful or I'll come to you and take away your lampstand. Okay. So I can see where you're going, that if the church failed its mission on that level, then at the very least, Christ as head of the church allowed it to happen in order to encourage a pruning. And I think you and I could probably come around to some form of that, right? Some form of that. Okay, if that's what he's saying.
His permissive will, yes, but I don't see that. You're being kind to introduce this level of nuance.
I'm trying here, okay? But I could see it as an active, as Todd said, permissive will. I could see that, okay? And so, giving you the most benefit of the doubt as a brother, because we're known for doing that here. Everybody says that about us. We're great at giving people the benefit of the doubt. We do it all the time. Anyway, I'll go ahead and buy. Todd.
Sell.
Okay. With prejudice, Todd says, with that tone. Sell with prejudice. Okay.
Next, we go to Philip Bishop, who says DCU will overtake the MCU at the domestic box office for the next 5 years.
I love Aaron inserting these just out of spite. He's in there right now doing his pit bull dance, just watching Todd kvetch.
Who cares? They're not making good content right now. At best, you just got a couple movies that people view were somewhere between serviceable and a nice time with I haven't heard anything dreadful about either. Well, that's not true. But for the most part, Superman and Fantastic Four, hey, that's the best one of so far. But what are you begging for? Why are you worried about this? Focus.
I think this
doesn't mean that he's not focused on other things.
Yeah, he might be focused.
Trying to submit a good buy, sell, or hold.
I think this is possible for the first time. I think it is possible for the first time, so I'll buy.
Ryan, the Christo-fascist, says solid traditional creeds and doctrine, like the Westminster London 1689 Confessions of Faith, are the only way forward for the American church if it is to truly retake the culture.
I assume you mean in some form of framework.
Yes,
all right.
That's how I took it.
Okay, if that is the case, then I can buy that to some degree. Okay, if that's what you mean, okay, then I can buy that.
I'll sell. We have all the creeds and the frameworks we need. We need faith without works is dead.
I am disappointed, Todd, because he left a dangling carrot out there for you to take advantage of, and you let it slide.
What did I do?
All right. Assuming, since he wants to talk about the post-Reformation Westminster Confession, he's a Protestant, Aaron, assuming this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
His argument was, if we really strip it away, what he's really arguing is we actually need a maximum exalting of tradition.
That's what I said. We already have what we need.
Yeah, but he is but you looked at it too. I can understand why you had the answer you did. You're looking at it parochially, just vis-a-vis that. Well, we already have creeds that predate Westminster, and I'm Catholic. I get that. Okay, but he's actually adopting a Catholic understanding of hermeneutics into a Protestant framework, and you missed it.
I didn't miss it.
You could have said, "Hey, dude, welcome to our side. Welcome to our side. We agree. We may have different confessions, but we couldn't agree more over here in Rome. So, congrats. Thank you.
I appreciate.
I did it for you.
As bad as our loyalty to intellectual exercises are, commitment to these things, creeds, even worse is our allegiance to the flesh on the bone exercises, real lived faith. which is why we talk about all the time. We don't really have a church. We have all kinds of people who claim to be conservative, Christian, yada, yada, yada. They do check the boxes on the creeds. But how different, to your point earlier, how different do they look from their neighbor in any fundamental way?
Mm-hmm.
A lived faith. And this isn't, again, theoretical. This is the gospel.
All right, next up, we go to Matt, don't you worry about it, who says the Steve Deace Show should bring back lore words and phrases like accoutrements and dovetail. The world would be a much better place if brought back.
I got to sell. I never knew we abandoned these terms.
Yeah.
I think, if anything, I use them too often. So
yeah, I don't. You've never been shy in the lexicon department.
No.
So.
I got an email from a guy yesterday. He said, if I took a drink every time you said, okay, I mean, I'd be drunk really fast. I said, you're welcome. Have a nice, just make sure you don't drive.
Value added once again.
There you go. Indeed. Yes.
Next, let's go to this one more. Jerry Davis says 2 things that both the UK and most of Europe did right after World War II that put them in the position they're in now. Number 1, they abandoned the Christian faith after World War II. And number 2, right after World War II, the UK and Europe imported tens of thousands of Muslims as workers to boost work production.
So I think there's some truth to this. And if this is what we're talking about with the so-called post-war consent, I think it's more complicated than this, okay? But there's elements of truth in what Jerry said, so I will buy. How in the world Winston Churchill gets roped into this when dude was voted out of office in 1949? No one's ever... I just would love to someone, just ask these kinds of questions of Daryl Cooper and these guys.
He was voted out before. When you look back and realize he went to the Potsdam conference to end the war. Yeah. He went there for 12 days. They voted him out then during the peace conference.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I forgot about that.
It's insane. I know it.
Yeah, so I truly don't understand. And because of this is why these guys walk into, and frankly, with some of the stuff they post on social media when they're not on Tucker Carlson's show, okay, they walk into this stuff that they're really, Nazi sympathizers. They open themselves, giving them the most benefit of the doubt. A guy who was likely politically completely a spent force by the time the liberal world order was introduced in the 50s and 60s. How he's the villain in this just blows my mind. It makes no sense at all. All right, coming back. Daniel Horowitz is going to join us. He'll take us inside politics here. Stay tuned. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, brought to you by our friends over at Constitution Wealth, and they've got 2 questions for you. Have you considered how your investments might unknowingly be funding policies that undermine your values? And then number 2, are you sure that your hard-earned investment dollars are not being used to oppose what you just voted for in the last election? If you think the chance is yes to either or both of those questions, you need to contact our friends over at Constitution Wealth right away, because they can help you specifically screen investments to make sure they align with your values, especially if, like us, you're a biblical worldview person as well, right? So you want to be a good steward of God's resources. You want to honor him with the talents and abilities and gifts and opportunities he gave you so that you can have the kind of wealth that you have. So take control of that right now. And instead of having your productivity and your wealth and your gifts that God gave you, have it weaponized against both you and him, you can actually make it a weapon against the spirit of the age with the help of our friends at Constitution Wealth. Get started today with a free consultation when you go to constitutionwealth.com/blaze. Get a free consultation today. Schedule that at constitutionwealth.com/blaze. And then also please remember that Constitution Wealth is a registered investment advisor, so you should review their disclosures at constitutionwealth.com and understand their services and fees, and also understand that all investing involves risk, including the risk of loss. I am a client of the firm. This is a paid endorsement, but my opinions are my own. His opinions are his own as well, as we bring in the man, the myth, the prophet of woe and lamentation himself, Daniel Horowitz. Good to see you, my friend. How is you?
I'm doing all right, Steve. It's hard to earn that wealth off of constitutional values, though. Just keep that in mind.
It is, which is why we don't do a lot of promoting of those in our industry nowadays. Good luck to you. All right. Todd's dying over here. Pour one out for Daniel's career right here on the show. Let's continue on. Let's get him while we can, guys. Let's get him while we can. All right. So, you know what? Let's talk some foreign policy for a minute. Okay. Who are the Druze? Not the Jews, but the Druze. Who are the Druze? Okay. Who are the Druze, and what is happening in Syria right now?
Sure. So obviously, as we've learned, that Islam can't seem to get along with anything around it. So we
had not noticed this, but continue on.
Yes. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or the Chechens, right, in Russia, or Kashmir in India, or Burma, right? You hear these different flashpoints, but there's a certain common denominator that, you take Jews, Protestants, Catholics, Buddhists, Hindus. There's no fighting anymore. Since the peace in Northern Ireland has held, we don't have religious strife anymore. It's pretty amazing, except for one that missed the Enlightenment. So, so people understand this is not about just Jews. This is about anything that is not Islamic. So Al-Qaeda takes over Damascus and their government. They have a bunch of Sunni militias of different tribes, and they start persecuting Christians, those that are remaining, and then they slaughter the Druze. I mean, like, in sheer numbers, probably worse than October 7th, but because it's Muslims doing it, so it's not international news. The Druze they're their own religion and ethnicity, but they take elements, I guess, of every religion a little bit. I don't know so much the history behind them, but you have Druze on the Israeli side and on the Syrian side of the Golan, and the Druze are fully consider themselves Israeli in Israel, and they serve in the military, and they're citizens. They have members of parliament, and they feel a kinship with those in Syria and vice versa. So you have the Syrian Druze, actually, they want to be a part of Israel. And just so people know, this is not some Zionist plot. There is no religious significance.
So what you're saying is there are actual Zionist plots, but this just doesn't happen to be one of them. That's what you're saying.
This doesn't happen to be one of them because there's no significant religious significance to that part of Syria. So no one has an agenda to annex it, but the Druze living there want to be a part of Israel. And meanwhile, they're being slaughtered, but Israel's trying to protect them. But then, as in every theater, Israel's kind of held back because the problem is not the Islamists doing the slaughtering. It's Israel trying to protect the Druze and the Christians that are being slaughtered. But then somehow the Jews are responsible for getting out Assad, even though they're not. And they're responsible for the Christians being slaughtered. But then when they try to defend them, they're responsible for it too. So that's sort of the narrow and wide of it.
All right. So now that you've explained who they are and who the players are, tell our audience why this has become such a political football in the overall drama there between Israel and Hamas, Hezbollah, post-October 7th of 23.
So obviously, it was a big part of the Trump administration agenda to bring Jilani, the leader of Damascus, at least for that part of Syria. I mean, it's disintegrated, so no one has control over the whole country because then you have the Kurds to the east. To bring him into the Abraham Accords. I mean, it was a big deal. Jilani obviously was responsible for killing a lot of Americans in Syria and Iraq as part of Al-Qaeda. But he, we thought maybe we could incentivize him to, hey, join the nations of the world and create peace. So Trump took off all the sanctions on him, even sent some diplomatic missions there, met with him in, I believe, Saudi Arabia. So, it was in everyone's interest. Well, don't start up with Israel, don't do jihad, and then we're willing to forgive your past sins. That sort of thing. Let's start off new. And then it doesn't help either, or it also helps that you'd be on the side of Qatar and Turkey, which, our government likes to do. So, it's sound like a good plan. But the problem is either you can't take the jihad out of him or he can't take the jihad out of his militants, whichever one it is, and they're back to doing their thing. So it's upset that entire plan.
So what is the path forward here? And what's the truth of the issue moving forward? Because there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Some of it has been true. There was a bureaucrat that was actually trying to interfere with evangelistic mission organizations. Mike Huckabee called that out. That got addressed by the Israeli government. All right. There's other things.
The bureaucracy is awful.
There's other, and a lot of it, frankly, has been trying to undo Netanyahu for several years now, including in their own judiciary. But there's also, the whole football over how many Christians really exist in Gaza still, how many Catholic Christians still exist in Gaza still, or how many people are really starving there. Why don't they just release the hostages and then they let all the food in? So how does this play into all of those various narratives that are at play right now as well?
So it's in many respects, it's a separate theater, but I think the common thread is this. Mm-hmm. Jihad doesn't give up. So what they can't do with the, blade of a sword, and they're literally actually doing that now, they do with what the Muslim Brotherhood calls is civilization jihad. And this is where the Qatari funding and media and lobbying comes into place, where your modality of warfare is you get to do what you want because, hey, buddy, this is what we're the children of Ishmael. This is what we do. You live by the sword. So we kind of get a freebie. We get to kill for free. So we get that. And then we hide behind the civilians. And then you can't. Well, what are you going to do? Oh, and then we'll take your hostages, too. So now what are you going to do about it? Anything you try to do, you're killing civilians. So this is their modality of fighting, and the pagan West joins with it. The lesson of both theaters is something very novel. Stay the hell out and stop trying to create and partner with and nation build new Muslim countries, whether it's reconstituting a Muslim Syria, a government there, or whether it's propping up a so-called Palestinian state in Gaza or other areas in Judea and Samaria, whatever. It's just not in our best interests. And that's Israel's problem to deal with and figure out. I don't think we need to particularly strategize for them, nor do we need to get in their way. I think it would have been more helpful had we expended our diplomatic capital and relations rather than pressuring them to pressure Qatar from day one, release the damn hostages. Okay, that was the linchpin. I don't understand why that's not being done. I mean, it was clear at the beginning this was the Biden administration doing it, so obviously, but at this point, it's like we're selling them a bunch of sophisticated weaponry. There's actually a group of Democrats that tried to vote it down in Congress recently in the Senate. So hold that over them. I mean, that's where the leverage is. But right now, it's all on the civilization jihad. You're starving people. You're starving people. Now, I think the answer in that is somewhere in the middle. It's very asymmetrical. It depends on your probably political status and how close you are with Hamas. There's a lot of fat people there. Inevitably, there are some people suffering, but that's not the point. Like, the world didn't start with the Gaza fallout. It started all out with their jihad and then grabbing hostages. So then freaking release the hostages.
Right. I mean, let's just grant let's just even grant the premise people are being starved there.
Yeah.
Who was being starved there on October 6, 2023?
So Steve.
So then why are there people? So then why are there people? What changed then? What changed the very next day? And so why are people starving there now? Right. So I think even if you accepted their premise, that begs that very question, doesn't it?
Exactly. And this is the one point I want to get across on this that's important to the just laws of warfare related to us. Because everything we talk about foreign, I don't care about unless it relates to America. If you want to have a Jewish exception to the just laws of war, like, okay, you're the only people not allowed to win defensive wars and you have to somehow win it and get blamed for their modality of tunnels under every hospital and whatever, and we're not going to apply it to us, then fine. I mean, let God take care of it, and God will do what he does there as he always does. My concern is that we are building a philosophy on the fake right that's extremely decrepit. So let's say and this is not so inconceivable, let's say we successfully busted up the cartel model. There was even talk recently if we went on the ground there, I'm not saying we should, but, had special operations against the cartels. Trump was talking about that a little bit, that, Sinaloa said something like, we'd have to fight for our lives because this is our livelihood. So let's say, we had Sinaloa cartel doing what Hamas does and starts to do attacks in our country, goes kinetic against Americans, not just through the drug trade, but, kinetic, and starts attacking. And they have a modality of warfare of hiding behind civilians and then having a media apparatus to make that the issue. So every time you take land, you have to come in through the ground, lose a couple hundred Americans, then you have to pull out to let the humanitarian aid come in and all that stuff. I want to make sure we're not going to fight bullcrap wars, when it comes to us. So for people like something that rhymes with Tucker, look, if you want to make a Jewish exception, that's fine. Just don't posit gay modalities of warfare when it comes time for us to use it.
I would assume Hamas's position is if we release the hostages, Israel will just come in and defumigate the place. And with that strategic objection out of the way, and so this is their last bit of leverage to maintain really some form of significant existence in that region. I'm guessing that's their position.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, and this is why they took them to begin with. I mean, How could you kill 1,300 people
and not expect a retribution?
There's not going to be an issue.
Yeah.
And look, if there's one criticism of Israel, but this is domestic policy, it's nothing to do with us. Israel has always been a victim of A, their own mercy, and B, they have this subculture that was created since their founding. It's been a huge point of controversy where they will do anything to get back a hostage and often even a dead body. So that's where you saw this 1 to 1,000 ratio stuff they've been doing. And the concern was that it would always incentivize more of it, the more you do it. And they made a promise rather than in totality, you got to save Israel. It's all about we can't lose any hostage, and they're paying the price for it. So that's kind of their issue there, and they're kind of screwed with that. They're sort of trapped with it, and I don't know what's going to happen. But again, I just want to point out, if you want to put America first and you want to cut off aid to Israel, I am fine with that. But let's cut off the aid to Gaza, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the Lebanese armed forces. Let's start with that.
So your position is, if we're really serious about this,
if you want to end foreign influence, let's end Qatari lobby.
Let's go the whole way. Let's do it and be legends.
Let's do it all.
Let's just not have a Jewish exception to everybody's angst.
To every damn thing.
Yeah. Good stuff, my friend. Thank you, as always.
See you later.
You bet. Gentlemen, what do you think?
Interesting. I think I'd want to ask Daniel about the modern forces in the middle. That's a one question that didn't come up. Bahrain, where they're building, skyscrapers and things like that. Whatever their version of modernity or the West, is that like China and modernity? Am I comparing apples to oranges, or is there a unique leverage point in there where they are just going to like that? Is it wishing too much that people will just grow out of their backwardsness because of the accoutrements of the West? Almost like we argued with COVID. I'm trying to find a frame of reference that people understand, but that didn't come up at all. And there is clearly an appetite for the bells and whistles that come with progress. Mm-hmm. But how do they work there versus in China versus here?
Right. I mean, listen, the Warner Brothers has a state-of-the-art amusement park in Abu Dhabi, for example.
Another example, things like that, yeah.
Aaron, you wanted to comment on that? Go ahead.
Well, there is clearly a new generation of leadership in places in that region that at the very least wants what Todd was just talking about. What I'm unclear about is whether they want actual cooperation long-term, or whether this is a short-term play. We're going to play nice. We're going to build these incredible structures. We're going to build our infrastructure. We're going to, turn into a first world country. this is a near-term play from all of these different players to just gain hegemony in their own way in that region, or whether there's an actual appetite for, hey, let's just live and let live the best we can, and let's all make money and be groovy and stop killing people.
I think what you guys are saying is we're looking for we're hoping the next generation of leaders over there are for cultural Islam and not actual Islam. Yeah. Hey, we'll just put our women in burqas, make them wear coverings when it's 120 degrees outside, and have our hyper patriarchy customs and traditions that are the, as you said, accoutrements of Islamic culture. But in the end, we want to take our kids to ride on the roller coaster and then go get a Frosty at Wendy's too.
Which is what they had before the Iranian Revolution.
That's kind of what they had in a way. Yeah. Now, the women weren't wearing burqas but bathing suits, but in a way.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, we're going to stick around, finish buy, sell, or hold in overtime for subscribers. For the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, Romans 8:28.